You've been listening to Sex is Medicine with Davie Ward Erickson, your #1 resource for holistic sex education. You can listen to and subscribe to Sex is Medicine on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Just search Sex is Medicine with Davie Ward. Stay connected with me and my guests on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Authentic Tantra, and learn how you can use Tantra as medicine to heal, awaken, and empower every area of your life at AuthenticTantra.com. Make sure to tune in to Sex is Medicine every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Contact Talk Radio Network, and join our watch party every Thursday evening on Facebook at Authentic Tantra. We look forward to you joining us next week for another episode of Sex is Medicine with Davie Ward. Welcome to Sex is Medicine. I am your host, Davie Ward Erickson, and I am delighted to be here with you for yet another Thursday evening in the house. This evening, I have a wonderful guest who is an alumni of Sex is Medicine, Miss Davia Frost, who also happens to be one of our star students at the Institute of Authentic Tantra Education. And Davia is a certified sexologist in her own right. So I was very honored that she wanted to get her Tantra training with us, because she's already a star, a celebrity in the field of sex education. I'm going to read to you a little bit about Davia because, again, I'm just so loving shouting out these bios. Like, the accomplishment of these people, these women and men that I get to have on my podcast is just phenomenal. And I'm so honored and so proud. So Davia is Jamaican born, Chicago native, certified sex and relationship coach and sex educator with an emphasis in women's sexual health and pleasure. During her independent study at DePaul University in Chicago, Davia developed a robust skill set to assist women with connecting with their divine sexual energy. She is the founder and owner of Frosted Pleasure, a platform that provides sensual classes, lectures, and coaching sessions worldwide. She is a seminar facilitator for the Exotica Expo, and largest event dedicated to love and sex in the United States, and tours with the erotic conversation and play series Cocktails and Condoms. You go. Davia teaches pleasure-based sex education at universities around the Chicago area and provides education to the masses at some of the nation's premier adult boutiques. And Davia is going to be launching a Taste of Tantra, Intro to Tantra event very, very soon. So make sure you go to her website, frostedpleasures.com, so that you can absorb the radiant essence of her wisdom, teachings, and find out more. And today, Davie and I are going to talk about breast orgasms. So this evolved out of a conversation that Davie and I were having, a personal conversation just about sexuality and pleasure. And she started talking about breast orgasms and how she wrote a freaking book about breast orgasms. I'm like, we need to know about this. How come we don't all know about this? And I particularly wanted to talk about it in reference to Tantra, because in the training that I received, the Tibetan 5-element training, we don't talk much about the breasts, right? And they're there, and we know that they're, a sensual zone, and there's all kinds of, it's important for health and pleasure, but there's not teaching or instruction that I've encountered personally. And granted, my understanding is limited by my availability to read Sanskrit and Tibetan, but but teachings around the breast, like actual techniques, are not something that I have absorbed much of in this particular tradition. There is, poetry about the mounds of flesh and pleasure and all that stuff, but I haven't read specifically, like, I want you to stroke and squeeze and twist my nipples and all this, like, specific instructions about what to do with these beautiful breasts of ours. So Davia wrote a whole freaking book about it. So I figured let's bring her on to talk about it. So welcome, Davia. That very long introduction for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Davie. But yeah, like, it's so crazy because, like, even when I was like, since I am a student with Authentic Tantra certification right now, and kind of just like getting a revamp on just the erectile tissue in our body, I'm like, wait, so yes, that is, I mean, the nipples do engorge, and our breasts, the whole area engorges with blood and they get sensitive, especially at a certain time of the month, right? So, and for me right now, that's where I'm at, because I'm like, ooh, don't touch me. But then I'm also like, but massaging them, giving them touch also helps release all that inflammation and soreness too. So I'm like, why aren't we more connected to our breasts? And how do we get reconnected to our breasts? Why it's important to be? And then how can I get my partner to play so he or they can also be a part of that breast reconnection ritual? So,
and that is a wonderful question of like, why aren't we more connected with our breasts? And so a few thoughts that I have is number one, like the view of breasts in the Western culture is they are either for food or for male pleasure. Mm-hmm. But they're not for our pleasure. So the idea that we could experience pleasure from touching and massaging and enjoying our own breasts, like that's kind of left out of the conversation from at least what I heard growing up. What about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, definitely. I mean, growing up for me, like my mom I've always seen her with big breasts, and like even other women in my family. And I'm like, I'm small. Like, how comes I don't have those breasts? And, you know, like in school, I got that, when I came of age, I got that American Girl doll book that kind of shows you like, this is the changes that are going to happen in your body. And I thought that was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting to learn so much. And my mom actually never held back on talking to me about even my menstrual cycle and making sure I had like a little package that I carried with me just in case. Mm-hmm. But when it came to breasts, I was just like, so what are these for? Like, why
do I have these large objects growing on my chest? They look really good in dresses. I will say that.
And okay. And then I got to the age where I was, you know, engaging in more intimate relationships with people and even intercourse. And they were usually men, and they were always talking about big boobs. And I'm like, well, I don't have them, so I don't know what to tell you. Either take me as I am, or, you know, that's just what it is. And I did have a partner that kind of made me feel bad about them. Like, not like he would poke fun, and, you know, you would do that nervous, like, but then, you know, that, you know, creeps up in your mind. Like, yes. Well, I've always been okay with what I have. So now I'm, you know, checking myself out, because I'm supposedly in a relationship with this person and they don't even see what I have as necessarily desirable. So yes, it goes straight back to that male gaze. And I was like, wait, but I love massages. I understand, and I was pre-med at a time. So I learned about the lymphatic system, and even without that, like my grandmother, you know, Jamaican, she's teaching me about making sure you massage certain places to get, you know, just to move through certain blockages and just break up certain like scar tissue and things like that. So I was like thinking about it, and I was like, okay, all right. And then I got my nipples pierced. That was like where that thought kind of came and ended. And then my nipples and my breast became a place of pleasure for me, because they were heightened and they were sensitive. Honestly, a little bit too sensitive, which is why they're no longer there anymore. But the piercings, not my nipples.
I was gonna say the piercings, right? Because it looks like you got breasts still. So praise, you know, like always grateful to retain our body parts, because they're healthy. That's a good thing.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well then how do I connect to them? How do I do that? And at that time, I was already teaching, you know, sexual education in different capacities, even if it was at one of the stores like the Pleasure Chest, or I was teaching with Brian and Karen at their Sacred Sexuality Retreat. And I'm like, well, how do I connect to my own breasts?
Yeah.
And touch is a huge thing for all of us, but specifically, I love touch. Like touch lets me know that that it's a safety. Like I was gonna say, you care for me, but not necessarily, but we do have that type of connection. And I was like, okay, well, I love mixing things. I've been mixing things as a child. My parents used to think I was going to blow the house up because
You're a
just throw
chemist.
yeah, I was a little chemist. And I was like, well, I want to make massage oil for my breasts. And so that's when I started doing more research on like what different oils would be good. So like olive oil is really good. And that's just for, the elasticity of our skin. Chamomile is a really good sesame seed oil, which I haven't really used sesame seed oil because I don't know why I always go back to mustard seed oil, and I'm like, isn't one of them
very different oil. Don't get mustard seed oil.
Yeah. I've kind of stayed away from like the smaller seeds. Frankincense is really good. And there's another one, it'll come to me, but those are really good for just even boosting the immune system. Remember, they're attached to our lymphatic system. So we can aid in our own healing and protection. Breast massaging is also a healing method that you could do before things happen and even after if something was to come up.
Wow.
So,
yeah, and that's something that socially and as a society, like, they talk about like massaging your breasts to check for lumps and, having your mammograms and all that. And it's like, again, the invitation for us to touch our breasts is usually medical. Yes. And it's not about the sensual connection to our own bodies and how that sensuality can be healing and can prevent things from arising later. So I love that you brought that up. Let's circle back to the whole like concept of breasts and erogenous zones. So breasts are an erogenous zone, but what is an erogenous zone? Let's break it down. What actually is an erogenous zone?
Erogenous zones are different places on your body that bring some type of pleasure. And when the majority of people think of pleasure, they go straight to the genitals. And they're like, well, that's the place of pleasure. Our whole body is created for pleasure. And we get to utilize our whole beings for pleasure. Like, I think that is the most amazing thing of being human.
Yeah. Yes. Pleasure. That's why we're here. That's why we signed up for this job.
Exactly. And these zones also have like, they're sensitive. They have lots of nerve, like they're little pockets of nerves that are there that really aid into that pleasure. So beautiful. Just to give you like a little bit about these erogenous zones.
So erogenous zones, they can be over the entire body. So it's not just so like you said, most often we think like genitals, like clitoris and penis, but actually erogenous zones can be your earlobes, right? They could be behind your ears. It could be your neck. It could be your breasts and your nipples. Yeah.
And also behind your knees, like who'd have thought, right? Like and you never know, because when you're sitting with your partner, right? And you're just touching them, you could be watching a movie and you're just stroking like inside their elbows or behind their knees. You're like, you feel really calm, like your nervous system is like, okay, I'm enjoying this, but you might not necessarily understand why, but because it's an erogenous zone.
So those movie strokes while you're sitting on the couch watching Jay Leno or whatever it is, and then the Tonight Show, those nice slow strokes. And I love that you wove in that's soothing to the autonomic nervous system, because that is like really where all good stuff occurs, is having a nice regulated autonomic nervous system.
Yeah. And babies do, like, I remember my little cousin, when he was a baby, he would suck his finger and he would always have to rub on my elbow. And I'm like, at first I was like, why are you touching me? And it soothed him. He had the touch that he was able to get to feel really comfortable. And then he would just, drift off and sleep. And I got accustomed to that. Who would have thought that I would be, used for another being's pleasure, right? Because first of all, pleasure and sexual is two very different things, but helping him, aiding him into just, tapping into that nervous system, and for him to feel at ease to know that he's safe to fall asleep, because, you know, babies want to be a part of everything.
Let's dig into that a little bit more, because you said something really salient, which is that pleasure and sex, or pleasure and eroticism, are two different things. What does that mean?
That means that, how do I want to break it down? We tend to attach certain words together, whether it be pleasure, sensuality, all underneath this umbrella of sexuality. And the difference is sex. Pleasure and senses, you're tapping into your human, like, yeah, like just automatic human thing. And I know sex is human too. I get that. Or primal, or whatever word you want to use for that. But sensuality, think about smell, touch, sight, taste. Like, we only sexualize that when we attach it to something sexual.
I hear that. So they're not our sensory and sensual experience is not inherently sexual. It's just, I think of it like antennas. I think of our senses as like, that's how we perceive this physical reality, is through sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, right?
Yeah.
So it's our ability to perceive our environment. That's what our senses are. And it's not directly sexual, though we can weave it together.
Yes, yeah. We can weave it together. And I mean, with anything really, right? So I love the use of strippers, like not the use of, but the utilizing strippers in that sense. Like, we automatically go straight to the sexual part of it when all of it is just sensual. They are literally giving you, like, blowing your senses right now with their movement, their fluid, their tricks. Them tapping into their own sexual energy
and sharing.
And now they're sexual. But what you're really getting off on is the fact that they're so in tune with that. And you are so curious and you want to get more of that, because that oxytocin and all these other things are starting to ramp up in your brain, and they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. You know, they're natural chemical reactions, but they're not sexual.
Yeah, they're not inherently sexual on their own. So having been a stripper, I love that analogy. Yes, so that's exactly it is the sensuality, the movement, the looking, the playing, the conversation, the dance, right? And the visual of it. I mean, it's like visually stimulating, releasing phenolphthalein and all those other wonderful things in our brain. So yeah, I love that. So in terms of our breasts then, so we've discussed like how it feels like when I feel into it energetically, it feels almost like kind of like a shield or something, that we kind of like a breast chastity belt or something, you know, that like socially it's like this sense of like being divorced, or like I can only, you know, touch these for somebody else's pleasure or to medically examine that. And I want to say this about being a stripper, because I think this speaks to what I'm talking about, like us not feeling that we have the right to connect with this body part. I remember when I was a stripper, and so we were topless only. We weren't bottomless. It was in Detroit, D-town, woo woo. And they periodically the clubs would get raided. And I remember, so there was like a month of raids happening or something like that. And we, as the strippers on stage, if we touched our breasts on stage, we could have gotten fined and a ticket. And I was so infuriated by that, because I'm like, they are my breasts. If I want to touch my breasts walking down the street, that is my right to my bodily autonomy. But according to the fucking law, like the law, if I touched my breast at that time, it may have changed, but if I touched my breast at that time in the early 90s in front of other people on stage, I could have gotten a ticket or gone to jail.
Oh, wow. Because then that made it sexual?
Well, exactly, because again, because if somebody else sees me touching my breast and are aroused by it, somehow I've committed a crime.
Okay.
So that's an example of just how politicized our breasts actually are. So that's part of, I think, what we have to go through. We have to go through when reconnection. We always have to go through all these social, cultural fucking cock blocks
yes, I love
that are conditioned into us in order to just like feel comfortable with our own bodies again. So for breast owners out there, who want to rekindle or cultivate a relationship with their breast, or maybe trans women who have had implants, or let's say women who have had mastectomies and want to be able to connect with their breasts, post-op. What is the first step in your mind in coming back home to our breasts?
The first step, and this is always going to be by yourself, is really just standing in the mirror naked and just looking at your body. And I always say 3 or 5 things of what you appreciate of your body. And you don't even need to touch anything. Just look and stand in the mirror, and just when you can even do that for, I don't know, like a week or 2 weeks. So however long it takes you for you to feel like, okay, now I can finally touch my breasts. It might be shorter for you if you're like, no, I want to connect now. But starting with that and just finding your appreciation of it, and finding your relationship with just staring at your body, and then changing the gaze up to just your breast is so dynamic. And I do this also when I tell people, go look at your vulva, your pussy, your yoni, whatever you want to call it too, because we really are disconnected to our bodies. And when they're trying to give us a sign of anything, even if it's don't be around that person, right? Or something is coming, or we don't like that material, or, bras. I love bras because I like how they perk me up, right? But do they create blockages? Yes, let's be real. That's where we need to really get back into just our gaze for ourselves, our gaze not for somebody else, but our personal gaze for our own body and our breasts.
So I want to dig into that a little bit, because I love that idea. It's a wonderful suggestion. And I love doing that in my life now. But there was a time in my life where looking at my naked body was, it was excruciating. It was painful. Like I wanted to like grab razor blades and start cutting body parts off. And I hated my breasts. Like I wanted to cut my breasts off. So standing and looking in the mirror was actually really activating, and really, I couldn't, it was painful. It was painful for me to stand and look at my naked body. And I would suspect that that's true for many other people as well. So what do you recommend in the case of, like, if we're looking at our naked bodies and all we feel is hate, how do we get past that?
And the only reason why I'm kind of like pausing on that is when I initially I don't even want to say develop, because breast massaging is something that's from thousands of years, right? Western, it's just not included in westernized massages, full body massaging. But when I first decided to really bring forth and teach women, or those who identified as such, or vulva owners, whatever it is that you want to identify as, to connect with their breasts, it was with other people, women. So it was a circle of us. And we were talking about this earlier, but I always found healing in circles, especially with people who may not be necessarily on the same exact path as you, or goal or destination as you, but similar, as the idea is to reconnect, or to expand pleasure or orgasms, or whatever it is, and be amongst these people who can create this safe space, this safe container to only allow love and flourish and healing to just expand and expand and expand. Because yes, starting looking in the mirror by yourself, because I really want you to focus on your own gaze. But when you have other people who are there just to love and support you, and they're giving you that love, I really feel like the whole birds flock together, whatever the thing is, analogy, is true in a sense, because I can find power in being with women like you, and even the community of authentic tantra itself, because I know we're here for the purpose, for the benefit of all beings, but also to just heal and to create that safe container. So if you yourself find it hard to look at your body because of, past trauma or anything else that has arisen for you, find your sacred space, your sacred circle, and allow them to help lift you up.
Whoa, round of applause. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes. So for those of us who may feel overwhelmed or may have been overwhelmed at doing this on our own, having community to support that healing process is so essential. So thank you so much for weaving that in to the conversation. So first we're going to get comfortable seeing or being seen outside of the media gaze, the patriarchal, whatever those words are, outside of that external gaze, reconnect to our bodies and our breaths through sight, through vision. And maybe it sounds like words of appreciation as well, sharing words of appreciation. So sight and sound. So then what's next? Where do we go from sight and sound?
Sight and sound. And I do want to say, when you're doing the gaze, you want to create an environment that makes it inviting for you. So definitely set the stage, if you would.
Yeah. So no like dirty socks hanging from the lamp and the dog toys everywhere, and
and give the mirror a nice spray and wipe it down so you can get a full clear view. And then I still don't want you to go directly to your breasts. I want you to go above, like just laying just on top of your chest, what is it?
Thorax. Clavicle. Yeah, correct.
And then just right above your belly button, like when you take a deep breath and you can push down and let all that air out and just breathe, right? And allow your shoulders to drop. Usually when I start my classes, I call it the orgasmic breath. No, nobody's having orgasms. Well, maybe they're really in tune with their breathing. They might be, but it's really just a collective deep belly breath where you can just moan out all the stagnant energy that you have. So we do it 3 times. I'm like, and moan. Drop your shoulders, your head, everything. And do that again and just find loving energy right there. Because even when I do it for myself, like I get overwhelmed with emotion. Like I want to cry sometimes, or I feel like I'm giving myself love in some type of way. Yeah. Well, obviously it's energy. Yeah. And I'm also feeling like, okay. So, I mean, even and let's say, you have that community space and you're ready to look at yourself, close your eyes and do this. And when you feel ready to open up your eyes, do so slowly with new glasses, new lenses, after you do those 3 orgasmic breaths.
Yeah. So we're making a somatic connection, breathing in, sounding to release any tension and stagnant energy. So that, again, that's going to help clear the lenses, wipe off those glasses.
Yeah. Give a nice little scritchy type of feel for you. And then, and only then, if you feel called to slowly just hold your breaths, that's all I want you to do. Just hold them, cup them and hold them. And just the whole intent with cupping and holding is just to connect, feel the weight of them, feel how supple they might be or how round or whatever they are, right? Just feel them, just hold them. You don't need to push them up. You're just holding them wherever they are, and connecting there.
Yeah. And something that one of my mentors, Carla Tara, taught me is that whatever energy you have in your heart comes out the palms of your hands, because we have little energy centers out of the palms of our hands. So as I was reminded of that, as you were talking about just holding and cupping and just connecting, but also I'm hearing this like with this unconditional acceptance, right? Without judgment, because there's so much. I mean, like so there's so much about our breasts as we've already touched upon, but even in like the shape of them and the hang of them, and like,
Yeah.
you know, like I have pendulous breasts. They always have been from the time that they formed. They're not these like apples on the top that sit on my chest. That's not what they do. It's beautiful when they happen, but that's not the way my breasts are, right?
Exactly.
And so because society says that the only type of breast that's acceptable and beautiful is a certain type of breast, I spent my whole life hating my breasts because they didn't look like that. So the idea of just like holding and observing and feeling without a demand for it to be any different, without judgment, with as much acceptance as we can muster.
Exactly. And without the attachment of you're supposed to do something or experience something afterwards. You're literally just holding yourself and just looking, and whatever comes up for you, I want you to acknowledge that, you know, certain things are going to come up. It might not be, you know, glitter and ponies, right? It could be some deep things.
Grief.
Yes.
It could be grief.
Grief. And remember, your heart is, you know, that your heart center is right there. So I know for me, when I am, if it's a solo pleasure session or I'm having intercourse with my partner, I know if I get to a point of almost too much pleasure in my body or some emotion, I go right to my heart center. Like I'm right here holding it. And obviously I've learned more as to why I do that with my certification that I'm finishing up. But yes, like there's so much energy and remember, your heart is only there to do its job, and its job is not to hurt you. Its job is not to make you feel heartbreak or grief or anything. It's literally there to pump blood into your body so that you can keep moving, so that you're alive, right? Because if it's not pumping, you know, medically, you're not really here. But that's exactly what it's supposed to do. And we put so much on that part too. And so we close off, and that also aids into that shield that we have here, because we're like, well, my heart's there, you know, my heart was broken, or somebody did this to me, and trauma. And we hold trauma in different parts of our body, as you know, if you don't know, we do.
If you haven't been following along.
If you're a first-time listener or viewer, and what we do need to do, and I'm glad our breasts are there in a way, is reconnect to our heart.
Yeah. Wow. So the breasts are kind of like a portal back into the heart center.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. And we were talking earlier about massaging with different oils. I want to go back to that, but before I do that, in terms of like, you know, just what you just said about like reconnecting back with our heart, how important is it, do you believe, for us as breast owners to reclaim this part of our body, to reconnect and energize, reactivate, I would say, reclaim this part of our body that again gets so often pushed to the side, or that gets put on a pedestal for other people's pleasure and enjoyment, but not our own?
I think it's highly important. And the reason for that is that, again, when we're disconnected with parts of our body, we're not inherently moving cohesively as we think we are, right? Like we're very chopped up in pieces in a way, and
fragmented.
And a lot of us, fragmented, and majority of people spend their lives trying to find a sense of everything, or connection, or why is something the way it is, or whatever it is, or why am I experiencing this, or why didn't I stop this, or, you know, we go through our lives just questioning and comparing things. And when we can connect back to what's with us, what we have, this whole body that the universe has given to us, we are having our human experience, right? We are able to move forward in life just a little bit better, just a little bit more with a breath of fresh air.
Some grace.
Yes, and grace and
Yeah.
compassion. And we don't show ourselves that nearly enough. And I'm not saying once you connect to your breast, you're like, I am this graceful, connected person, and I can walk around every day with my chest up and with my stride. No, there's always going to be those days where you're like, I have them. I'm going through one too. But when you really know how tapped in and connected you are, and you know that this body that you have is purpose is to not only bring you pleasure, but to connect you to your energetic core. There's so much beauty in our human experience when we go through that.
Wow. Another round of applause, Davia. Well stated, my friend. So this reconnection and reclaiming process. So you talked about massaging with different oils and the effect that has, because there's this, and what I'm hearing is it's healing on so many levels. This practice of breast reclamation, we'll call it, it's healing on the psychological level, it's healing on the emotional and the spiritual level, but then there's also this physical healing that occurs as well, which is, you mentioned the lymphatic system and all of that. So in terms of like massaging the breast with oil, what are some of the health benefits of that? And then you mentioned a few of the different oils, like what do those do?
Yeah. So, and I remember the other one was oregano, because, and yeah.
Icy breasts.
Yes.
I love oregano oil.
But breast massaging is actually Ayurvedic. Like it's something that's actually, it's not always just breast focal. It's massaging of the whole body, but including the breast, right? Because it's a preventative and it's also a healing method, right? So again, we have these pressure points along our chest and, our armpits that hold blockages, like there are blockages there. They hold toxins, because the whole purpose of them is to get that out of us, right? Because we need our lymphatic system. And when there are blockages, health issues start to arise. And I forgot to say this before, but another reason that I wanted to do this because my mom had, breast cancer, and I don't even know why that blocked out. And I was like, wait a minute, that was also why I was like, because it was a preventative for me. Because now I'm like, okay, let me make sure when I go in, I'm asking these questions and I'm starting that process now, right?
Yeah.
And we store energy, right? So stagnant energy doesn't really do good to anybody. Think about water when it's stagnant, all this stuff, and it's yucky, it's polluted, there's mosquitoes and anything that starts manifesting inside of it. And once you start running that water, when it's done properly with nature, it's clear, it's fluid, it's moving, and it's beautiful. You see the animals coming back to it. Life is back to it. The fish are flopping in and out of it. You hear the noises and you're just enjoying the view, right? A lot of us like to watch water. So I kind of bring that visual up front. But yeah, you can get that out. You can work on aiding to cleanse your lymphatic system and detoxify your body, even with breast massage.
And that's a wonderful analogy, the water analogy, because the lymphatic system in the Tibetan 5-element healing practices that we do, the water element governs the lymphatic system. So that's exactly correct. When the lymphatic system gets congested, that is the root of illness. And I know in the Taoist tradition, they talk about that as well, that all illness is a manifestation of stagnation. So that image of clearing and cleansing the water and getting it to flow again through this massage and this touch that you mentioned. So what was it? Oregano oil, chamomile oil, and what was the other one?
Frankincense.
Oh, frankincense.
Yeah.
So what do they do? Like, because I'm a big essential oil person as well, so I have a little bit of a knowledge, but I haven't thought of massaging my breast with it. So what are those oils specifically? What do they help our bodies do?
Yeah, so these oils specifically, it's funny because when I learned about frankincense and myrrh was when my grandmother would burn it if they felt like spirits or something was around, right?
Well, and they brought it to Jesus, right? I didn't know
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah,
spirit
it's biblical
dispeller.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what, so they were dispelling spirits around baby Jesus. They were like, be
Yeah.
gone, spirits. So frankincense and myrrh. There we go.
Yeah. So I I call them road openers. I mean, if that's a problem for you, you know, you can change that word.
I like
But
that, road openers.
yeah,
Yeah.
and oil of oregano, a lot of people take it anyway to boost their immune system. And chamomile is relaxing, right? It soothes you. So, and again, with the sesame, I'm still learning about that because I get a little nervous with the seeds, but I believe it's more so their fattiness that they have with it. So it helps with, again, the elasticity, which also olive oil, cold pressed organic olive oil can aid in as well.
I'm a big fan of sesame oil because of my skin type.
Mm.
It's really, sesame oil is really good. Speaking of Ayurveda, it's really good for kapha skin.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, ding, put that in. Thank you.
So then would you recommend using like the chamomile, frankincense, and oregano together or separately? Or what are your thoughts on that?
When I mix oils, I call myself a kitchen witch. I am. Like, I feel it, I'm smelling, I'm testing it out. You always want to use a carrier oil, which is why I keep bringing up olive oil. I tend to stay away from coconut oil just because the ones that are on the market are kind of like overdone. I don't know. I don't trust, like, I've seen the process of coconut oil being made as a child in Jamaica. And I'm like, people are using this a whole lot more than, because it takes a lot to get that coconut oil. But when it comes, I like to use almond seed oil as a carrier oil, which is really good. Avocado oil is really good for your skin. I put it in like I should have grabbed it, but I put it in like a nice like glass bottle. So when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it literally
That's
looks
not
like
breakfast.
it looks like a genie bottle.
Ah,
yes.
yes. Talk about enhancing your sensuality. Even the
Yes.
bottle's got to be, I put glitter on it and
Mm-hmm.
sparkles. Yes.
Yep.
That's the breast bottle.
Yes. The breast bottle. And then you don't want to use too much of the essential oils because they can tend to burn. I saw something today of it was on Amazon because I was getting ready to order some herbs and stuff like that. And the person went to go put tea tree oil on a keloid or something and was calling the oil fake because it burned them. And I was like, well, you didn't really do your research because you don't put essential oils directly onto the skin. So it literally had nothing to, yes, it worked. It did its job. So yes, please be safe when you're doing this. Just a couple drops of oil into your carrier oil. Shake the bottle up every time you use it. I tend to do my breast massages when I'm not like super stressed out, which I think I should be doing it more so when I'm stressed out because it does alleviate stress. But I'll do it at least 3 times a week. And I do it normally at my nighttime routine because I like my candles in my bathroom. I take my nice shower or a bath. You want to make sure this is a ritual. So make it feel good. Make it feel yummy. Make it feel luxurious. Make it feel like you are royalty. I mean, you are divine, and you are. I just want to let you guys know that. And then I take the bottle and I use light to medium circular motions. And I'll go right through, and I don't go to the nipples right away. I leave nipples to the last thing. Remember, they are very sensitive. I do not want to just immediately tell you it's like the head of the clitoris, but I mean, it is like the head of the clitoris. They are very sensitive for some people. Everybody has their different levels of sensitivity. And even the areola, I don't go straight to that either. I start with the broader tissue, right? Around the breast surface, the broader surface. And I make sure I really go underneath and around and really use my hand to separate it and cup and make it feel really good for myself. for me.
So for those of you who are listening in your car on Spotify, I'm going to invite you to go to our YouTube channel, Sex is Medicine, because Davia is demonstrating her breast massage for us on this video, and you don't want to miss it. So now, Davia, is there any, so I know like in the Taoist tradition, there's like, you can move out or you can move in. Mm-hmm. So what is the difference like in the direction? Are we going in towards the heart? Are we going away towards the heart? And what does that mean?
Usually, so when I was even learning just massaging, I used to get like different people tell me different things. Some people would say to move away from the heart. Some people would say to go towards the heart. I got more so away from the heart is what I got majority of the time. Mm-hmm. And then when I was started doing my research on breast massages, they were saying when you go away from the heart, was it counterclockwise? Apparently that sometimes can decrease the size of your breast, whereas you go clockwise, it can increase the size.
So it's bringing energy into as opposed to dispersing energy.
Yeah.
And then for those people who maybe don't have sensitive nipples, or their breasts are kind of numb or don't have much sensation, have you seen in your work, that this breast massage can help resensitize the breast and increase?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Because when you start bringing more awareness or to certain parts of the body that has been left numb, and for us, we know that numbness means that there's a block there, right? And it's important for us to bring some type of stimulation to that block to help. Again, like I said, my grandma used to say, break up the scar tissue or the blocked and the stagnant energy. So I highly recommend doing that, but take your time with it. Like, I don't want you to just start rubbing and like, oh, I need to put out this fire or start the fire. Like, I don't want you to do that. I want it to be loving and just slowly. I demonstrated on a friend that I've actually never touched in a way. That was our closest encounter we ever had.
most physical yes.
Besides a hug or a kiss on the cheek. And I did this in front of the people who came to the class at Exotica. And she even told me, I hope I'm not misgendering them. Last time we spoke, it was she. So I'm going to go with that. I apologize if you're watching this and it's no longer that. But they were telling me that their nipples were always sensitive, like very numb to love. They don't even give it any stimulation because it just didn't do anything for them. And I just put loving intention in my hand. I didn't even use oil or anything. It wasn't like she took her bra off or anything. It was just my hands just bringing in energy and connecting with her, with them. I apologize. And we interacted on Messenger, I think. I don't know if it was even text, it was Messenger. And they said that was the first time they actually felt like stimulation with their nipples. And they're like, oh my gosh, like I never would have known to massage myself to even get there. And granted, I did bring in like some vibrational toys as well. Even though I don't start
toys too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that one in a minute.
But my intention was always healing and love. So that was the intent that I put into that very short massage, but it helped. Very, very short, but it helped. So
well, that's a very tangible result from something that's seemingly so small, such a small thing. So in terms of being able to have breast orgasms, that's kind of like the other holy grail of sex. Like, oh, are they actually a thing? So you say hell yes. And so for those of us who yearn for that experience, would this be the starting point for us? Is just this like breast love ritual?
Yes, definitely. So bring back that love into that space, reignite it, reawaken it, reconnect to it, but also know that our ideas of what orgasm should look and feel like is not the same that we see in porn or movies, which I really hope you're not looking at movies because I hate watching sex scenes on shows because it's so it's just way too animated for me.
Well, and it's like 10 seconds and everybody,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, and unless they do like the montage time lapse and then it makes it look like it's 3 hours, but
Yeah.
fucking nobody lasts 3 hours on the first date. So give me a break.
But sometimes I know for me, they feel like flutters. These orgasms feel like flutters. Like they're not like that over, like almost your cup is running over with pleasure type of thing. It is pleasurable, but not like genital pleasurable. So, and a lot of us, I do want to say this too, I really believe that a lot of us experience other type of orgasms, but because we are so fixated on what it should look like or the fact that we want this orgasm, we miss those a lot.
I agree. Here. I agree. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the breast orgasms are maybe a more subtle type of orgasm, they're a different flavor of orgasm. Then they're not going to be like your clitoral climax where you're like, ah!
The back is arching and
toes are curling.
Sailor Moon.
Make an ugly face.
Yeah. Those light spokes come out and you're levitating over the bed. No, not like that. But it is a nice flutter for me. It is like, and even when my partner is stimulating, you know, my nipples, and so they are sensitive. Again, you know, I realized my nipples were way more sensitive than I thought, and adding a piercing it was too much, right? For me. But even with that and engaging in even if it's stroking or even if it's making out in a nice like massaging of the breast, a good makeout session is orgasmic in itself. Like breath is gone, your lipstick is, you know, all over. I love that we wear masks, by the way, because when I make out, and I love wearing red lipstick, I'm like, ooh, I get to cover my face up. The guys can just wipe it off, but if I have makeup off, I can't just, you know, wipe my face down. But those are really, you know, that's a great like blended orgasm.
So making out and having your partner massage your breast, or even you massaging your breast with your partner as you're kissing and making out. Ooh, that sounds like that would be very medicinal. Yeah.
And even like, you know, you start with the broader part of the breast, and then you start to they start to slowly just stroke your nipples and around the areola, like, you know, and you're really attracted and really, I'll say attracted, I don't want to say attached to your partner. Even their touch, like they could just brush by you, like, do it again, come back. So just having that person that you're connected to, even giving you that touch, and there's no end goal for that touch. They just want to touch you, just connect with you. That also gives another sense of energy and safety for you to really unleash your orgasmic or pleasure threshold, potential. So yeah.
I love that, removing the goal, because having the goal there, like, when am I going to have a breast orgasm, is going to block you from having the orgasm, but really just being present with a sensation and enjoying it and letting it fill your cup is the key. So you literally wrote a book about this. Tell us about this book, where we can get it, the title of it, because we need to take this home and start our breast ritual.
Yeah. So, and the only reason, you know, you can tell me what I call it, more of a guide than an ebook, just because I'm like, this is kind of just things that are coming off the top of my head. And I do have 3 different exercises for you in there. It's actually called Unleashing Your Orgasmic Potential, Breast Worship. Woo!
I love it. Breast worship. Let's bring it. Yes. Yes. So
yeah. And it is ebook or e-guide. The link is actually attached to all my social media. It's going to be on my website later on today. So when this is up, it will be on the website. And you just pay for it and you get it right there, PDF for you to read. You can put it on a Kindle on your phone. You can send it to your partner. Like, look, so I've been thinking.
I would like to go to church and do some worship. I would like to worship you. the mother. Yeah. So your website, frostedpleasures.com?
Frostedpleasure.com is my website. And then social media is always Frosted Pleasure. But yeah, it will be up when you guys
tonight. It's up tonight. Yes, go to frostedpleasures.com. And then also you're going to be launching a Tantra workshop, both in person and online, climate permitting, environment permitting. So people how can they find out about your upcoming workshops?
So again, they will be on my website, underneath events or offerings. It might be underneath both of them, actually, if I think about it. You will also see me posting about it and talking about it on social media, because I'm so excited. Because I really do want everybody out there to even get a taste of what Tantra can really do for your life and your partnerships and your relationship with yourself and your family. Because going through this program, look, I have had to knock down some walls that, maybe I didn't necessarily want to, and they have really allowed me to grow as even more into the magnitude of the person that I am. And I'm forever grateful for your teachings, your modality, even though, Tantra is in itself been around for, thousands of years, but this trauma-informed Tantra is really necessary. We deal with so much and dealing with so much right now. With where our world is right now, everybody on this planet, every being on this planet is currently going through a collective traumatic experience. And we just need to continue learn to give ourselves grace and know that we are also pleasurable beings, and pleasure is our birthright, and we deserve that fucking orgasm, okay? We deserve it.
Fucking orgasm. And it's a glimpse of enlightenment. So pow, there we go.
Yes. I always said we're walking, when you orgasm, you tiptoe upon those pearly gates of heaven, and then eventually you got to come back down. But those pearly gates, they open up your eyes to a whole level of sensitivity and just energy. Like, who would have thought that we get to actually work and feel the most potent energy that there is to mankind. So, yeah.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Davia of frostedpleasures.com. I'm going to invite you all to go and pick up that breast worship e-guide. Ebook, e-guide, breast worship e-guide, and absolutely keep an eye on frostedpleasures.com for her upcoming Tantra workshops, Tantra intro workshops. And make sure you stay connected with us at Authentic Tantra. We are holding down the house, teaching Tantra as medicine, rooted in Tibetan 5-element Tantra. And you can follow us on all the social media, Authentic Tantra, if you haven't already. And make sure you watch this show on YouTube, y'all. You have got some beautiful women demonstrating some breast massage, whatever it's a good visual. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. Next week, we're doing Ask a Sexologist with our favorite crew of people to answer your questions about sexuality, spirituality, pleasure, and personal growth. Tune in next week for another episode of Sex is Medicine. Woo-hoo! Bye. You've been listening to Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward Erickson, your #1 resource for holistic sex education. You can listen to and subscribe to Sex is Medicine on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Just search Sex is Medicine with Devi Ward. Stay connected with me and my guests on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Authentic Tantra, and learn how you can use Tantra as medicine to heal, awaken, and empower every area of your life at AuthenticTantra.com. Make sure to tune in to Sex is Medicine every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Contact Talk Radio Network, and join our watch party every Thursday evening on Facebook at Authentic Tantra. We look forward to you joining us next week for another episode of Sex is Medicine with Davie Ward.